Good morning, everyone. I call to order this morning this 20th meeting of the Public Utility Commission for calendar year 2012 and ask that you join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on the agenda this morning is the approval of the minutes for the October 11th public meeting, and I'm proud to recognize Commissioner Whitmer as the editor of the minutes. Commissioner Whitmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All the votes have been counted, and I'm pleased to say we've bridged the gap between red and blue and move that the minutes be approved as submitted.
Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Subject to audit, the minutes are approved as submitted. Now it's a pleasure to welcome to the podium to begin public meeting Ms. Cheryl Walker Davis. Good morning, Cheryl.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning. Good morning.
May it please this honorable commission, on behalf of your various offices and bureaus, we present for your consideration and disposition the following agenda items. Commencing this morning with transportation matters on behalf of the Bureau of Technical Utility Services, it is recommended that the Commission adopt all of the recommendations appearing on pages 1 and 2 through and including the tri-state household goods matter at the bottom of page 2.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
On behalf of the Bureau of Audits, it is recommended that the Commission adopt all of the agenda items appearing on page 3 through and including the PECO Energy Company Generation Supply Adjustment recommendation.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
On behalf of the Bureau of Consumer Services, it is recommended that the Commission adopt on page 4 the recommendation with regard to PECO Energy Company's Universal Service and Energy Conservation Plan.
So moved. Second. Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
On behalf of the Director of Regulatory Operations, with regard to the investigation of Pennsylvania's retail electricity market, it is recommended on behalf of the Office of Competitive Market Oversight that the Commission adopt the recommendation with regard to the end state model for default service, noting the statement of Commissioner Whitmer.
So moved. Second. I'd like to recognize Commissioner Whitmer for purposes of her statement. Commissioner Whitmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like my statement entered into the record as if I had read it in its entirety. Before the Public Utility Commission for consideration today is a tentative order outlining the proposed default service end state model. I want to thank ACMO and the stakeholders that have participated in the RMI to date. I truly believe that the recommendations embodied within this tentative order go a long way toward improving retail electric competition within the Commonwealth and thereby creating significant value that will benefit ratepayers across Pennsylvania. In addition to outlining the proposed default service end state model for the Commission's RMI, the tentative order requests comments on the critical issues set forth within. I wish to encourage interested parties to provide comments on the various proposals within this tentative order, but I am particularly interested in how the parties view the Commission's approach to energy efficiency and conservation programs going forward. Accordingly, I request that the parties answer the following questions within their comments. Do any EGSs currently provide or plan to provide energy efficiency and conservation services as part of their competitive retail offerings within Pennsylvania? If such services are or will be offered, how do EDCs and EGSs see those services coordinating within existing EDC Act 129 Energy Efficiency and Conservation Program obligations? Are there enhancements we can make to the Commission's end state proposal to encourage EGSs to develop and offer additional energy efficiency and conservation services outside the scope of Act 129 Energy Efficiency and Conservation Programs? And is there a broader role EGSs can or should play within legislatively mandated EDC energy efficiency and conservation programs? Again, thank you to all of the stakeholders for getting us to this point in the RMI process.
Thank you, Commissioner Whitmer. I certainly want to associate myself with your statement, and I want to take this opportunity to recognize those team members that represent the Office of Competitive Market Oversight who played a very critical role here this morning in getting this document ready for public meeting. And I'd like to recognize at this point Tom Charles, Megan Good, David Hickson, Kirk House, Matt Rivnak, Brent Killian, Jim Milia, Dan Mumford, Stephanie Weimer, Matt Worst, and last but not least, and I know she's sitting there in the back, but a debt of gratitude is owed to Karen Mallory for her leadership on this effort. I know she's sitting back there, and I'm looking right at her. She thought she was going to get off easy here this morning, but if there's one thing I think we can all say to you, thank you on a job well done. And I just want to remind everybody in the room that might not be happy with something in a tentative order, you have a 30-day comment period. So I can encourage you to participate in the process. And with that, is there any further discussion? Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously, noting the statement of Commissioner Whitmer.
On behalf of the special assistants, with regard to the first item, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the recommendation pertaining to Mary Kincaid versus Philadelphia Gas Works, noting the joint statement of Vice Chairman Coleman and Commissioner Whitmer.
So moved.
Second.
I'd like to recognize, I believe Commissioner Whitmer is going to read the joint statement here this morning. Commissioner Whitmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before the Commission today are the exceptions to the initial decision in the case of Mary Kincaid versus PGW. In her complaint, the complainant alleged, among other things, that PGW failed to contact the Pennsylvania One Call service before replacing the gas service line on her property. PGW admitted that it had not contacted Pennsylvania One Call prior to commencing work. While the Commission is not charged with administering and enforcing the Underground Utility Line Protection Law, we feel it appropriate and necessary to re-emphasize with all of our utilities, their contractors, pipeline operators, and anyone engaged in excavation work of any kind, the importance of using PA One Call. Households rely upon underground facilities for water, telecommunications, sewage, and natural gas every day. For businesses, these facilities represent the lifeblood that keeps them in operation and contributing to the Commonwealth's economy. Those who dig before calling 811 may interrupt any number of utility services to households and businesses, and in the case of natural gas lines, may endanger life and property with potentially catastrophic consequences. It is estimated that more than 8,000 line hits occur each year across all Commission-regulated facilities. Properly notifying PA One Call is the first step in reducing this vital safety and reliability issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Whitmer. Any further discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
Should be noted that the last item on page 6 pertaining to Danielle Douglas versus the Philadelphia Gas Works has been postponed until public meeting of December the 5th. In omnibus fashion, it is recommended that the Commission adopt all items appearing on pages 7, 8. On page 9, the first item is excluded, that being Robin Irving versus Philadelphia Gas Works, which has been postponed until public meeting of December the 5th. The omnibus continues with the remaining item on page 9, as well as all items appearing on pages 10, 11, and 12 through and including the Verizon North and Buffalo Lake Erie interconnection agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
On behalf of the Bureau of Technical Utility Services, it is recommended, again in omnibus fashion, that the Commission adopt all items appearing on pages 13, 14, and the first 2 items through and including the PPL Electric Utilities Corp. Letter of Notification on page 15.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, we have the next item pertaining to Pennsylvania American Water Company's application for approval of the right to offer, render, furnish, and supply service in Morris Township, Washington County. That matter will be considered with one other matter out of order, that being on page 16, the Pennsylvania American application for approval to render and supply services in Lancaster Township, Butler County. We recommend the adoption of the staff recommendations with regard to both of those items, noting, however, the statement, your statement, Mr. Chairman, along with Commissioner Whitmer, that applies to both cases.
So moved.
Second.
I'd like to recognize Commissioner Whitmer for the presentation of the joint statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like our joint statement read into the record as if I had read it in its entirety. Before the Commission today are, for are proposed orders approving 2 applications for water line extensions by Pennsylvania American. In the first case, Pennsylvania American has applied to extend service to Consol's Enlow Fork coal mine in Morris Township, Washington County. The second proceeding would allow Pennsylvania American to serve Rex Energy natural gas operations in Lancaster Township, Butler County. Both applications present similar but compelling facts pointing to the economic and societal benefits of water line extensions. Consol will pay over $2.4 million for all costs related to its water extension, while Rex will install a water main estimated to cost $1.5 million and provide an additional $100,000 toward the booster pump station. In both cases, residential customers currently receiving water from wells will have the opportunity to economically tie into safe public water supply. For its part, Pennsylvania American will begin receiving additional revenue from customers, with the bulk of capital costs being borne by companies with ties to Pennsylvania's burgeoning natural resources industries. We believe that approval of these applications will assist in providing additional construction jobs, sources of clean and potable water, and a positive impact financially for Pennsylvania American. These benefits should be highlighted by this commission because they are exactly the types of win-win situations created by proper use of all of the Commonwealth's sources of abundant natural resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Whitmer. Any further discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously, noting the joint statement of Commissioner Whitmer and myself.
Continuing on page 16, with the Pennsylvania American Water Company item in the middle there having already been considered, we recommend the adoption of the remaining 2 items on page 16 pertaining to Best Energy LLC and Fayette County, as well as all items appearing on pages 17 and 18 through and including the security certificate recommendation pertaining to the Last Mile, Inc.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
On behalf of the Law Bureau, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the 2 items appearing on page 19 through and including the recommendation pertaining to the electronic access to testimony.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
On behalf of the Office of Administrative Law Judge, with regard to the recommendation of Administrative Law Judge Buckley and the proceeding involving Don Smith versus Pennsylvania Electric Company, there is the motion of Commissioner Gardner.
I'd like to recognize Commissioner Gardner for purposes of his motion. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like for my motion to be entered into the record as if I read it in its entirety. Dawn Smith, a landlord, filed a formal complaint alleging that Penelec was responsible for a fire in the basement of her rental home. She indicated that the fire was caused by a broken line and a faulty transformer. She requested damages for, among other things, the repair of her basement and furnace. In response, Penelec filed an answer denying responsibility for the fire. Concurrent with his answer, Penelec also filed preliminary objections requesting that the complaint be dismissed because it failed to state a claim upon which relief might be granted by the Commission. The company argued that because the Commission cannot award damages, the complaint was legally insufficient. In the initial decision, the administrative law judge properly found that, with respect to the request for damages, Penelec was correct, but despite the claim for damages, the Commission retains jurisdiction on any issues related to the public utilities duty concerning adequacy or safety of public utility services. However, the ALJ dismissed the complaint, holding that the Commission could not hear a quality of service issue brought by a landlord. In this case, the ALJ relied on the Rohrbach case and stated, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court has held that a utility statutory duty to provide reasonable services under Section 1501 of the Public Utility Code does not extend to a customer's landlord. I do not believe that the Rohrbach stands for that proposition, nor can the court's holding be so broadly construed. In Rohrbach, the court contemplated a narrow issue concerning whether a utility violated its duty to landlord complaints by disconnecting the electric service at the ratepayer tenant's request without notifying the landlord. In the Rohrbach case, the court reviewed the Commission's regulation and found that the Commission's validly enacted regulation was unambiguous and the utility had no duty to notify the landlord before disconnecting service. That regulation is not implicated in this case. The court limited its scope of review to determining whether the utility had complied with one specific Commission regulation. The facts alleged by Ms. Smith in this instant matter do not implicate the same section of our regulation as did the Rohrbach case. Because the decision in Rohrbach is not implicated in the instant case, Ms. Smith's complaint cannot be dismissed based on this holding. Because the Rohrbach holding does not apply, this case should be remanded to the Office of Administrative Law Judge for a hearing on the merits of the complaint. Therefore, I move that this matter be remanded to the Office of Administrative Law Judge for further action consistent with this motion, and that the Office of Special Assistance prepare an opinion in order consistent with this motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
It should be noted that the next item pertaining to Judge Dunderdale's decision in Joseph Pala versus People's Natural Gas Company has been postponed until public meeting of December the 5th. It is recommended that the recommendation on page 21 with regard to the UGI Penn Natural Gas Company annual purchase gas costs filing be adopted by the Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the presentation of regular agenda items. Turning now to the carry-in agenda. It is recommended that the Commission adopt, on behalf of the Bureau of Audits, the recommendation pertaining to UGI Utilities default generation supply service.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
And on behalf of the Bureau of Technical Utility Services, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the recommendation pertaining to People's TWP LLC.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
And with that, Mr. Chairman, we have no further presentation of agenda items. That concludes the presentation.
Thank you. I do believe we have a couple announcements here this morning, and one, I'd like to take this opportunity in the audience this morning to recognize Attorney General Linda Kelly announced the appointment of Tanya McCloskey as acting consumer advocate for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And as you know, we recognized our outgoing consumer advocate, Sonny Popowski, for over 33 years of tremendous service to this Commonwealth. And representing the Office of Consumer Advocate in the acting role will be Ms. Tanya McCloskey, and I'm proud to welcome her here this morning to public meeting. If she could stand and be recognized, we'd like to congratulate her. Should be noted, she's had over 25 years of service with the Office of Consumer Advocate and served the past 19 years as a senior assistant consumer advocate, and I understand a proud graduate of Dickinson College. Is that correct? Great. The other announcement we have here this morning, I believe Vice Chairman Coleman, you'll be kicking off at 1:30 the Winter Reliability Forum here in Hearing Room 1.
We will, Chairman. We're looking to a very spirited and constructive discussion this afternoon. Look forward to seeing all of you then.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. With that, we are adjourned.